Hello, true believers. It's been a while, but I got a lot to update you guys on. Hi, Abigail. So we moved recently, which is why you see a box in the background. Um, but it's been pretty amazing. Let's see. So about a month and a half ago, I just between training for my fourth full marathon and my first powerlifting competition, I pulled my peroneal tendon in my ankle. During the Papa John 10 miler, um, going through Iroquois Park here in Louisville, I overcompensated trying to make a sharp turn and ended up fracturing. That was Abigail's nose. Or she was. See if she'll do it again. Ended up fracturing my foot. So I've been in a boot off and on for what feels like forever. But during that time, I competed in my first powerlifting competition. And let's just see how big this bad boy is. Yes, and if you look closely, you'll see my name, 2016 Derby City Open, first place Masters, age 40 to 45, because I'm 43 and I'm old, and full powerlifting meet, which means I did squats, bench press, and deadlift, full powerlifting, and placed first in my age group, which is kind of cool. It's funny when they called my name, because I really, you're there, you're cheering for everybody, and they called my name to come up, and I was kind of confused. And my wife, Damari, God bless her, I'm walking back holding the trophy, and she's like, "Can you smile so I can get a picture of you with the trophy?" Because I was so shocked and dumbfounded and confused, so I'm kind of walking back with the trophy, and she's like, "Corey, smile," and I was like, I said, "Okay, just give me a second to so-call this in." This past Saturday was the Kentucky Derby Festival mini and full marathon. Pulled peroneal tendon, fractured foot, torrential downpour. I did it. See that? It's a beautiful heavy metal with you see it's got the course on it in orange. Marathon. It was pretty cool. I'm not going to downplay that. It was really one of the first times in all of the races and all the competitions I've done, with everything that has gone on in the past 15 months, the staph infection, almost losing my leg, the stress-induced heart attack, the shoulder surgery October of 2014. This one was May of 2015. Starting therapy, medication for the bipolar and PTSD, and going through all that, distancing myself from those people that caused that negativity in my life. This was the first time I did something I was proud. I was proud of myself. The time, of course, was 6 hours. And actually, speaking of time, I'll show you something. Okay, so the time, of course, was, and a really good friend of mine, Christy Wevington, got me this shirt. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 26.2. Is in the number of miles in a marathon. So thank you, Christy. You were an absolute godsend of a friend. One of the neat things, we live in Kentucky, and 90% of the bourbon in the world is made here, and it can only be called bourbon if it's made here. Otherwise, it's whiskey. Downtown 4th Street, we have the gym being Urban Stillhouse Select. So they make their own brand there. So you're not dealing with a bourbon that's been shipped all around and dealing with temperature changes and climate changes. This is made right here in Louisville. Well, part of it is you just purchase the bottle for a typical, standard price, but you got the free etching. So they put the logo on here, and you can choose whatever you want. put my time and my name, my time, and my pace on here. So that's 6:26. That's, if I'm not mistaken, around the same, if not even a little slower than the first marathon I did. And this marathon was April 30th, 2016. But if you look at my 26.2 in Roman numeral tattoo in that date of my first marathon, which was Derby, was 4:30, April 30th, 2011. So 5 years exactly to the day. My times were pretty similar. This being, and it was heavy rain, but this being on, a bad ankle and a bad foot. And I did it. You're in a small company of people when you complete a marathon. You're in a very small company of people. But I completed it injured. I did something that most people wouldn't think of doing. I have a wonderful support system, and I keep that support system small. Starting with my wife, and she just was like, "If you promise me you'll take it easy afterwards, I'm with you." And she was. She very easily could have been like, "How dumb are you?" And I probably wouldn't have really had a decent answer. But she never once said, "You can't do it." She never once said, "I don't think you can do it." She never once said, "I don't think it's possible." She just said, "You know you, and you can do whatever you put your mind to." As a race ambassador, it was very public that I was going to still do this injured. So I heard a lot of, how do I say this? I heard a lot of helpful advice from people. And, I kind of feel like this. If you've never done it and you've never attempted to do it, I don't think you're qualified to give advice. I have a lot of friends who are single parents, single moms, single dads. When they talk about being exhausted and they talk about being tired and they talk about the struggles of it is to be a parent, just because I'm a parent, I don't give advice. I don't offer an opinion because I'm blessed to have my wife. We do this together. So, I heard advice from people that have never walked a mile. And I don't mean that figuratively. I mean literally have never walked a mile. These people have never lifted weights in any sort of competitive environment at all. I really only have like 2 friends that are even in the running. She calls us hybrid athletes, which I think is kind of cool. It sounds very sci-fi, like I'm a hybrid. I'm like, it's all right if you're laughing at me. I laugh at me too. That's Abigail. I'm chilling. So, I really had gotten to a point I was really tired of it. I was just tired of hearing people because, it's easy to sit on the couch and criticize. And people like, well, you're injured and this and that. And I was like, but here's the thing. Nobody gets injured being inactive. If you're injured or you have a nagging pain or this or that, you have that because you're active. And that's going to happen. There's just, that's just factual. If you're doing things in a truly trying to better yourself mode in a consistent basis over time, it is going to happen. If you're someone that goes to the gym once a week and you take that one class that they offer and that's all, and then that's all you do, no, you're probably not going to get hurt or get injured as quickly as the person who's there 5 to 6 times, that's hitting the weights, that's burning 1,000 calories each workout, which is what I do. So Saturday, I'm going through the race, and it's funny when you're about to embark on something that is going to really test the endurance of your brain, because physically you're just moving one foot in front of the other. That's really what this all comes down to. In a marathon, you have to have your mental capacities in order. You just do, because if you're not mentally ready for this, it will break you. And I've seen it happen to people. It has nothing to do with their physical being. It is the mental wear and tear on you that mile 18, mile 19, mile 20, mile 22, mile 24, that it's just, you don't have it anymore. So I had spent time thinking of all these cute little mantras and scenes from movies and wrestlers even, and things of what I would play in my head when I got tired. None of that shit even came up. I mean, there was times I was flat out loud talking to myself, and I'd laugh because, I'm an only child. I've not necessarily had the most loving childhood, so it was pretty easy to be alone. When you're doing the Derby Marathon, it's a beautiful view of the city, and I'm telling you right now, registration has opened up for 2017. My race ambassadorship is over, so this is not even me telling you to pick me. It is a beautiful tour of Louisville, and it is a wonderful way, whether you are a tourist or you are local, to see the city. Mile 8, you do an indoor loop of Churchill Downs, where the Kentucky Derby is. For anyone watching this, it's not in Louisville. And it's amazing because unless you work there, this is not a part you're going to see on a tour. This is not a part you're going to see if you're the average spectator. And there's, we come in and everybody's just, it's a beautiful night. Even though it's raining horribly, people were still like, oh my goodness. The distance to that door, to me, they're outrunning the horses that are going to be in Saturday's Kentucky Derby. Nothing more. And I mean, you can't see, but I'm getting goosebumps as I'm even talking about this. It's beautiful. It's majestic. It is so incredible. It is a God's view, of horses and power. And it's oh my goodness, it's phenomenal view of God's work. And you can't help but to be in awe. Now, when you come out of that, you got a little bit, and it's mile 9, and then you split. So if you're in the half marathon, you're making a left, and they're screaming at you. It's coming up their signs. There's no oops, I didn't know. And if you're making the full marathon, you're making the right. And it's funny because you got to realize there's 16,000 runners. There's maybe, and someone can prove me wrong, there may be 1,100 marathoners. So you can imagine that split gets real distinctive. I mean, it is, here's my hand and here's my pinky nail as far as that split goes. This is where I've said before, me doing my training runs at 4:30 in the morning, me doing these things by myself early in the morning is a great setup for this split for me. It doesn't feel, I don't feel alone. I don't feel like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I actually feel right at home at that point. It's probably harder for me to run amongst a group of people than it is to be by myself. Now, the great thing is, up until this split, I ran, with another race ambassador who I actually consider a friend of mine, Chris Powell. And hiccups. Usually I don't really run with anybody, and we kind of found each other. I want to say it was about mile 4. He's a great guy. He's one of those human beings you really consider yourself blessed to know. Father, husband, just an incredible person. And like me, kind of a guy, we talked stuff. And I had a plan. I was doing a 4-mile run, 1-mile walk to really just sort of salvage or save my foot and ankle as much as I could. So we ran and talked, and it was like we got to the split, and I remember shaking his hand, and I was hoping to show I was very serious. I said, it was an honor and a privilege to run with you, Chris. It was really a lot of fun, and I thanked him, and he said, no, thank you. And I said, I apologize. I probably slowed you down a ridiculous amount off your time. But he, and I kept telling him, I was like, Chris, if you want to go, dude, I said, my feelings aren't going to be hurt. I said, I'm not setting PRs. This is not going to be a fast day. And we stayed and we talked, and it was fun. So we came across that split, and now, the rain's really starting to come down, and so I was like, okay, here's where the rubber meets the road. Here's where, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. We have to, let's take a mental check on how we are physically, and then let's stay in our zone. I have two running mantras, and when I say to myself during these times, and one of them is, one of them is run the mile you're in. Don't get caught up in how many miles you have done. Don't get caught up in how many miles you have to go. Run the mile you're in. Let's focus on that. And the other one, when the mental monsters really start breaking me down, the other one is I'm not a bad man. I'm not a good man. I'm the man. And that's just to remind myself that you can do this. And I'm Abigail, and that I can do this. So I have my Superman shirt. On the back, it's got the kids' handprints and puffy paint. And this was neat because this was the first year we could actually get all 4 kids with handprints, because usually there's always been a baby, so someone's always had footprints, because you can't really do. You ever try to put handprints on like or puffy paint on like a 6-month-old hand? You're asking for a recipe of disaster. And I have the kids' names and their ages, and then it was on the cape of the Superman. On the back of it, it says husband, father, runner, heart attack survivor. So it was really nice. People were cheering me on and like, go Superman. And I made sure to thank every volunteer as they're standing out in the rain, and they're like, but you're doing the work. I'm like, but you're standing here. I'm going somewhere. It was special. Every mile, as slow as it got, as hard as it was to do, was special. It was special because nobody could take this away from me. There's plenty of people that can say they've run marathons. There's plenty of people that can say they've run them not feeling the best or slightly injured. And for someone else, I'm sure someone's going to say they know somebody or this or that, but it was on a fractured foot and it was on a pulled ankle tendon, and I did it. There's times I could have quit that not one person would have begrudged me a single thing. I'm sure I would have gotten a lot of "I told you so," I told you it was too hard, you should have rested, blah, 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 but I didn't. I did this. You can't take that away from me. And it was a pretty fantastic thing. Now, weirdly enough, Saturday, after the race, all day, I really flip-flopped between wanting to throw up and crying. I just, mentally, I never felt that way after a race. I've only said this to the orthopedic surgeon doctor I went to this morning, my follow-up, but I really, in my head, and I said, if I still feel this way tomorrow, I'll let it be known officially. I didn't, but I really was done running. And I don't mean running races. I mean, I was done running. It just mentally, I was broken. And I posted that on my Facebook page because, obviously so many people had shown me love, all day. I mean, obviously all day. I mean, obviously prior to that, but just all day, and text messages and Facebook messages and Twitter messages and Instagram messages, and people had just shown me love all day, and I was very grateful, and I didn't want to seem ungrateful, but it really was one of those. I think I had posted, I was like, listen, I need to thank every one of y'all for showing me love. I said, but right now I'm a broken wreck, so I'm gonna unplug for a while. I mentally was not there, and I mean, I really was done running. But Sunday I woke up, and mentally I was the place I think I should have been. Mentally I was, bless you, Abigail. Mentally I was proud. It was an accomplishment. It's something that I'm like, I looked at the medal a little differently than I had from when I received it, and it was a whole different thing. And I'm still feeling that way now. I have a boot on and I'm walking around, and I was at the chiropractor this morning and getting adjusted in a massage, and I'm pretty much almost convinced that entire staff to run next year's mini or full marathon. But I was like, they were like, how do you feel? I was like, I just feel proud. I'm like, it's not a boast my chest and I did this. It's not that. It is a very subtle, just, I look at my reflection now and I kind of just go, bruh, like, there's a different layer to you now, and different than from the fact that I've run marathons before. Again, that alone should never be understated of running a full marathon. It really can't be. But I was like, this is special. I mean, this is one of those, like, I mean, now on the other sense, there's part of me that's laughing at me going, you have lost the ability to ever say you can't do something, it's too hard. For the rest of your life, Corey, somebody asks you to do something or there's a challenge in front of you, you've lost the right to go, this is too hard, I can't do it. Because your trump card's been played. I mean, the ace has been thrown down. You've gone all in and without bluffing and not blinking and took home the pot. So you kind of got, I can't ever say, no, it's too hard. And I think about that a lot, and I laugh to myself. I talk to my kid, I remember crossing the finish line, and ironically enough, it was another race ambassador there, Steve Bennett, and he handed me my medal. He gave it, not handed to me, he put it on my neck. And the first thing I thought was, holy shit, this is heavy. And I kind of did one of these. I mean, you got to understand, look at the thickness of this. I mean, are you hearing this? So I was like, holy crap, this is heavy, then I was like, it should be, David. I ran 26 miles. And then I remember I was kind of grabbing onto him, and he's like, Corey, you need me to call a medic? And I was like, no, I made it this far, dude. I got to make it out on my own 2 feet. And that was, he said it's kind of neat. And I told the kids, I said, listen to me. Because I had, people said some hurtful shit. I had people telling me, if your kids play sports and they ever get injured and they cause permanent damage to themselves, you're going to be the blame for it. And I haven't said that publicly, but I'm not kidding you that there was not a day that went by in this past month and a half I've not heard that from a different person. And I've only wanted to say, and mark this down as me swearing, I only wanted to be like, fuck you. And I said, my kids, in any of the races I went injured, the Rhodes 10K and the Papa John 10 miler, 2 of the Louisville Triple Crown of running, and this race, and the powerlifting competition, I looked at them, I said, I want, and, my oldest daughter gets it. She's like, I got in the car and I looked, my family was there at the finish line. It's raining. My son, 2-year-old, he's at that age where playing in puddles and mud is fun, so he doesn't care. But there was this moment where I'm coming and they're cheering and I'm waving and I'm starting to get a little teary. And my son makes eye contact with me and his face lit up. And I got in the car and like I said, I mentally I wasn't in a good place. And I just said, I'm sorry, you guys have been waiting so long. And my 11-year-old Ayana said, Poppy, you ran 26.2 miles on a fractured foot. We're good. That's pretty decent. The next day I told him, I said, listen, you'll want to do things and there's things you're going to pursue that people are going to tell you it's too difficult and it's too hard. And if you take nothing away from what I did, I want you to remember this. It has nothing to do with what anybody tells you. You have faith in yourself. You put in the hard work. You can accomplish whatever you want to. They said, we know you tell us that all the time. But that's the message I wanted them to get. Other things during the course, I need to give some thanks. Stephanie Fish is another race ambassador, and she ran the half, and she lives right along mile 25, 24. Again, when you get late in the numbers, then stuff's blurry. And she said, I'm going to be there for the race ambassadors, and I'll have a table with beer set up. And I turned the corner. Cave Hill is now behind me, which my father's buried there, and that was a special moment. And I hear, Corey! And I see her, and I just gave her a huge hug, and she said, I was so worried about you, because, I'm well behind. I finished 6 hours and 20 minutes, so I sat there and she said, how are you doing? And I said, the real answer, or the answer I'm giving everybody else. And she goes, we're friends, the real answer. And I was choking on the words because I was starting to cry again. I'm not even sure what I said because it was really the tears, and all I kept saying is the tears can't come. If the tears come, they can come after we cross the finish line. But if the tears start, it was a wrap. Mentally, I was going to become. It was going to be like the Bugs Bunny Daffy Duck cartoon where Daffy Duck has a loose thread and he keeps pulling, and all of his fur comes. It was going to be that. And she just gave me a hug, and I mean a hug, not like a legit hug, a friend hug, supportive hug, and said, you have less than 3 miles. So I guess it was after 20. I'm sorry, it was after 24. Whatever, do the math. 23. And she's like, you've got less than 3 miles. Do you have that in you? And I just remember saying, I have to. And she said, all right. She goes, you're a badass. And I was like, Fish, thank you. I love you dearly. You have no idea how much you being here helped. And then I went on my way. Another dear friend of mine I got to mention too, Stephanie Sturgeon. She's another race ambassador who has become a dear friend of mine, and our families becoming good friends with each other. And she's in this whole thing, and she's a nurse. So let me explain my expertise. My point there is, she's a race ambassador. She's a runner. She's a nurse. In this entire time, I have been injured. I have been in the boot. I have run races injured. I have gotten more injured in those races. I have competed in a powerlifting competition, which she brought her children to come cheer me on. Her and her kids came and cheered me on. And a full marathon, injured. She has never once said to me, you're stupid for doing this. She's never said, why are you doing this? She has been nothing but supportive. She's even offered to watch the kids, because she knows Damari and I don't really have a support system. It's just her and I, to watch the kids so Damari and I can have a date night. That's a God-given angelic friend. Understanding, again, going back to the medical side, there's plenty. She could have come to me from a legit place of where I would have been like, well, I have to listen to like, Corey, you can't do this. This is just stupid. This is, I'm speaking medically and as a runner. Never once. Never. All did was ask me, was I okay? Showed support, showed love. Damari, kids need anything. And her husband ran the half marathon. That I hate calling it a mini because it's 13 miles. It's a legit distance. It's, legit. But ran the mini marathon that day, and it was her 10th half marathon, and it was her husband's first half marathon, and they got to run it together, and that's pretty special, and that's the kind of people her and Matt are. And great guy. I mean, and she's a great friend, and there's some shout outs I needed to give there. But I mean, I did this. I remember not jumping, I'm kind of jumping around, but like the powerlifting competition, I was there, I'm in my singlet, everything else, and I still had my boot on. The only time I took my boot off and put a shoe on was when it was my time to lift. So people are just staring at me. Damari doesn't blink. My kids don't blink. Stephanie doesn't blink. Her sons don't blink. They're like, what do you need? You need some Gatorade? You need some water? They're cheering me on. They're taking pictures. And it was phenomenal. My first lift, my numbers were obviously going to be lower than what I could do. I mean, my squat was, I think, 350, and I can squat way more than that. My deadlift was like 3. Well, we had to go to kilograms they had a chart, so everything was kind of like your pound was like something 0.6 if you practice, but whatever. My bench, because you have to have both feet flat on the ground, and they can't, much less they can't come up, and you can't even shift them, so they have to stay flat. So you have to plant down on the center of your foot, which is where my fracture is. So I still think I only did like 225 on bench, 375 on deadlifts, 300 maybe on squat. It's kind of like running. I never really pay attention to numbers. I just do it. And you have 3 attempts in each uh, discipline. And all I kept saying the whole time when people said, what is your goal? And I said, I just want to go 9 for 9. I want 9 successful lifts, especially coming in this injury situation. I said, I don't care about placement. I just want 9 successful lifts. So I knew my numbers were going to be down, and I did them, and it was fine. So when I found out I won my age group, I felt, it was nice. At the same time, at the time, I really didn't let myself grasp it too much because the bigger picture was going to be Derby Marathon, which was 2 weeks away. So I did my squat and I said, okay, that's the painful part. Had my boot back on. My wife heard one of the guys say, I guess I can't. And I had made friends with those guys. It was their first powerlifting meet. And it was at Powerhouse Gym. And I owe a shout to my friend Sean and her boyfriend Austin, as well as Phil, the owner. Phil, the owner of Powerhouse Gym in Middletown, Louisville, was they're in Middletown in Louisville. Sorry, super nice guy and so accommodating, especially for us newbies. Just so a quality human being. Sean and Austin are those people that she calls us the hybrid athletes that were endurance runners and powerlifting, which I won't even go into the whole trying to eat enough calories in a day. That's a full-time damn job. To try to make up for the calories you're burning in working out and running. So I really, during the awards ceremony, was there to cheer Sean and Austin on and everyone else. And so when they called my name, I was very confused. It was funny. I said it already. So I did my discipline and I got through squats and I thought, okay, I'm glad squat was first because that was going to put the most pressure. Bench press was next, and it was one of those. One of my good friends, Jason, who's one of the people from Body Under Construction, where I'm a personal trainer at, he'd come to support me too, and that's huge. I asked him to be my spotter, and he got me right in the rhythm of doing it, and I don't think I could have done it at all without him helping me. So, did my 3 lifts, walked away, I was cool, definitely in some pain, and last I knew was deadlift. Weirdly enough, because if you're doing deadlift correctly, your legs aren't even there as a piston point like squat. That's where your power's coming from. Bench, that's where you're having to press down. Deadlift, they're really more of a stability thing because I just need them to be in place, in the right place. Everything else is going to be back, up, shoulders back. So I did that. And the interesting thing when you do a powerlifting competition, when you do squat, you take the rack. You have to wait for the command when to go down. And you go down to where you think you've gone down far enough. And he had said to us ahead of time, he's like, however low you think you should go, drop down a little more. Because normally when you squat in the gym, here's your thigh, here's your leg. This is the axis you need to squat at in a powerlifting meet. And you come up. Can't bounce when you come up. It's got to come straight up. And then you have to wait for the command to rack. Put the weight back. Bench press. You go when you're ready. You bring it down. And you have to wait for the command to press up. So it's not like in the gym where you're doing this. So it'll come and touch your chest. Wait for the command. Push it up. Wait for the command to rack. Deadlift is sort of you get some freedom. It's just go. And you need to come up. And your shoulders need to come back. And then you can't just throw the weight down. You need to bring it down. And from an experience standpoint, I really just wanted to go 9 for 9. I wasn't trying to do anything. I wanted the full experience, and I did, and got a trophy. It's been an amazing month of April that I got a trophy, and the first time I'm doing something, I have a medal that really comes with a pretty cool story. Even now, I was at training clients yesterday, and I'm at the gym and putting out, I'm walking around in a booth, but with a marathon though. Getting stopped when I was at the chiropractor this morning. People asked me about that, and at the orthopedic surgeon this morning, everybody's like, man. And that's what it is. It's a smile. It's cool. It's the Han Solo smile. It's, it's not like I need to walk in and say anything. It's just something I know inside that I'm proud of. So I'm gonna include some pictures from the powerlifting tournament on here. I don't really have any. I didn't take pictures with all the rain. I didn't take any pictures during the marathon. And apparently, the photo company that took pictures for the marathon, no one really has any pictures of. And I'm getting the feeling that even though they're paid to be out in all types of weather to take pictures, that they sort of took off and didn't. But if I can find some, I'm going to post those up. Abigail, what are you chilling on? I'm going to post those as well. And I'll post a couple of the pre-race pictures we took that morning. But it's pretty cool, you know. But I did promise both my orthopedic surgeon and my wife real rest now. Real take some time off. I was gonna do a powerlifting competition in June. I was gonna do a half marathon in June. No, it'll if I run the next run I'll hopefully do will be in the fall. So I will legitimately take time to heal off. For anyone watching this that has followed me through this journey, thank you. Anyone watching this that has followed me through this journey and has been one of those people that have had the helpful comments, or I just want to give you my opinion because you feel like you have to, fuck you. Simple as that. But I'm just going to say, you know, it's so big. I can't even, can I stand back and put it here? I mean, it's just so big. So, this is what happens when you don't listen to other people. This is what happens when you listen to God's voice inside of you. This is what happens when you believe in what you bring to the table. Screw what anybody else says. So, much love to all y'all. Stay good.